The labor room door swung shut behind them with a soft click that sounded, to Maya, like the door of a cell locking shut. Except this cell smelled of antiseptic and old blood, and the only way out was through a storm of pain that was already building on the horizon like a thunderhead. The room was small, brutally small. A single metal bed with stained white sheets, a wooden table holding a tray of instruments that glinted under the fluorescent light, a plastic bassinet in the corner, empty and waiting, a window with cracked glass that looked out onto a courtyard where a single mango tree drooped in the heat, and a plastic stool, bright blue, cheap, the kind you'd find in a market for 200 naira. Damien pulled that stool to the side of Maya's bed and sat down like he was settling into a throne. The matron, a large woman named Sister Beatrice, with forearms like a wrestler and the calm eyes of a soldier, was already gloving up. Two younger nurses fluttered around her, arranging towels, boiling water, muttering prayers under their breath. "All right, Mama," Sister Beatrice said, not unkindly. "Let me check how far gone you are." The examination was swift, efficient, and uncomfortable. Maya bit her lip until she tasted metal again. Damien looked at the ceiling, then at the wall, then anywhere but between her legs. Sister Beatrice straightened up, her expression unreadable. "You are 7 centimeters. Baby is in position. Could be an hour. Could be 3. Could be 20 minutes if this one is in a hurry." She looked at Damien. "You, husband, make her comfortable. Walk with her if she wants. Don't let her lie flat on her back until I say so. And for heaven's sake, don't let her scream until it's time to push. We don't need the whole hospital thinking we're killing someone in here." And then she was gone, sweeping out with her nurses, leaving Maya and Damien alone in the small, too-bright room. The silence stretched. Maya breathed, in through her nose, out through her mouth. The contraction that had been lurking crested, and she groaned, a low animal sound she didn't recognize as her own. Damien leaned forward. "Okay, what do you need? Water? A cold cloth? Me to run out and fight God on your behalf? I'll do it. I'm not very religious, but I'm very rich, and I hear God likes a good negotiation." Maya stared at him. You're joking right now?" "I'm distracting you," he corrected. "There's a difference. Are you distracted?" "No." "Good. Then my jokes aren't bad enough yet." He pulled out his phone, a sleek, expensive thing that looked like it belonged in a spaceship, and started scrolling. "Let me find something really offensive. How do you feel about puns involving placentas?" Maya laughed. She couldn't help it. The laugh tore out of her, half hysterical, half genuine, and it hurt and felt wonderful at the same time. "There," Damien said, pocketing his phone. "That's the first real smile I've seen from you. We're keeping it." 30 minutes passed, then an hour. The contractions came faster now. Every 2 minutes, every 90 seconds. Maya walked the length of the room, leaning on Damien's arm, stopping every few steps to breathe through another wave of fire. He walked with her, matching his pace to hers, talking the entire time. He told her about the time he'd tried to cook for himself in college and set off 3 fire alarms. About the stray cat that had adopted his penthouse balcony and now refused to leave, sleeping on his $1,000 suits like they were garbage. About the business meeting where he'd accidentally called the CEO of a rival company by his ex-wife's name and had to pretend it was a psychological negotiation tactic. "I didn't even know he had an ex-wife," Damien admitted, guiding her back to the bed for a sitting break. "But he looked so impressed that I just kept going. Now every time we meet, he asks me about my deep strategy. I've been reading psychology Wikipedia pages for 3 years to keep up the lie." Maya was sweating through her dress. Her hair was plastered to her forehead. She felt like she'd been run over by a truck, then revived, then run over again. But she was also laughing, actually laughing. Between the pain and the terror and the sheer impossibility of the situation, she was laughing. "You're insane," she gasped. "Probably," Damien agreed, "but I'm also very entertaining. The nurses hate me already. Did you see the way Sister Beatrice looked at me, like I was a cockroach in her porridge? She looked at you like she was trying to figure out why a man in Italian shoes was in her labor room. Ah, Damien examined his shoes. They were indeed expensive. She has good instincts. Most people don't question me. It's disconcerting when they do. Most people don't question me. Maya filed that away. Another piece of the puzzle that was Damien. She'd noticed other things too. The way he'd spoken to the nurse at the entrance, not loud, not threatening, but with an authority that made her step back. The way he'd parked the SUV, not arrogantly, but precisely, like he was used to fitting large things into small spaces. The way his hands moved, steady, controlled, used to handling expensive things without breaking them. "Who are you?" she wanted to ask, but the pain was climbing again, and the question slipped away like water through fingers. The next hour was worse. The contractions were a minute apart now. Maya was no longer walking. She was on the bed, gripping the metal rails, her knuckles white. Her sounds had graduated from groans to cries to something that was almost a scream, but not quite. She was trying to save her voice for pushing, Sister Beatrice had said, but it was getting harder. Damien had moved his stool so close that his knees touched the bed. He held her hand. She squeezed it so hard she heard something crack. "Did you just break my finger?" he asked mildly. "Probably," she panted. "Good. Go for the wrist next. I don't need to sign anything for the next few hours." She laughed and cried at the same time. The contraction peaked and began to recede, and she slumped back against the thin pillow, gasping. "I can't," she whispered. "I can't do this." His face was close to hers now, close enough that she could see the tiny scar above his left eyebrow, the flecks of gold in his dark eyes. The humor was gone. In its place was something fierce and certain. "Yes, you can," he said quietly. "You walked 2 kilometers in the sun while in labor because you had no one to call. You asked a stranger on the road for help because you refused to give birth in the dust. You have been alone for months, Maya. Months, and you're still here. You're still fighting. That baby in your belly doesn't know how lucky he is." Maya's throat tightened. "You don't even know me." "I know enough," Damien said. "I know you're brave. I know you're stubborn. I know you're terrified, but you won't stop. And I know that in about an hour, you're going to hold that baby, and you're going to forget my name entirely. And that's fine. But right now, you're going to push when they tell you to push, and you're going to scream if you need to scream, and I'm going to be right here, holding your hand, being ridiculous, whatever you need." The tears came then, not the quiet, defeated tears she'd cried over Tunde's note, but something else, something hot and fierce and grateful. "Stay," she whispered. "I'm not going anywhere," he said again, and this time she almost believed him. Sister Beatrice returned with the nurses. One glance at Maya's face, and she nodded. "It's time. Husband, behind her. Support her back. Don't let her fall. And for the love of God, don't look at what I'm doing unless you want to pass out." Damien moved behind Maya on the bed, sliding so that she leaned against his chest. His arms came around her, bracing her. He was warm and solid, and she could feel his heartbeat against her shoulder. Fast, steady, real. "Okay, Maya," Sister Beatrice said, positioning herself between Maya's legs. "Next contraction, you push. Hard, like you're trying to move a mountain. You hear me?" Maya nodded, trembling. The contraction came, and Maya pushed. The scream that tore out of her was not human. It was primal, ancient, the sound of a body doing something it was designed to do but had never done before. She pushed until her vision went white, until she felt like her bones were separating, until Damien's arms tightened around her like a vice. "That's it," he said in her ear. "That's it. You're doing it. You're actually doing it. I've seen mergers worth billions. I've seen deals that took 2 years to close. I have never seen anything as impressive as what you're doing right now." Another push, another scream. The nurses were shouting encouragement. Sister Beatrice's voice cut through the chaos. "Again, again, the head is coming." "He has your stubbornness," Damien observed. "He's taking his time. Very dramatic. Definitely your son." Maya wanted to kill him. She wanted to kiss him. She settled for pushing again, harder this time, her whole body straining. "The head," Sister Beatrice called. "One more push, Mama. One more." "Come on, Maya," Damien said, his voice rough now. "One more. Bring him home." She pushed, and suddenly the pressure released. The pain didn't stop, but something shifted. A great, wet, sliding rush. And then there was a sound that made every person in the room freeze. A cry. Thin, reedy, indignant. The most beautiful sound Maya had ever heard. "It's a boy," Sister Beatrice announced, and her voice cracked slightly. Even battle-hardened matrons weren't immune to new life. They placed the baby on Maya's chest, warm, slippery, squirming. Dark eyes blinked up at her, a tiny fist waved. A mouth opened and closed like a baby bird's. Maya looked down at her son, and the world stopped. Nothing else existed. Not the pain, not the hospital, not the months of loneliness. Just this small, perfect creature who had somehow survived everything she had survived. "Hello," she whispered. "Hello, my love." She was crying. She didn't know when that had started. Damien's arms were still around her, and she realized distantly that he was crying too, silently, his jaw tight, his eyes bright with something she couldn't name. The nurses cleaned the baby quickly, then looked at Damien. "Father, would you like to hold him first?" Maya nodded. She wanted to see this. Wanted to see the stranger from the road hold her son. Damien's hands trembled as he took the baby. For the first time since she'd met him, he looked uncertain. He cradled the small bundle against his chest with a reverence that made Maya's heart clench. The baby stopped crying, just stopped. His dark eyes, so like Maya's, fixed on Damien's face. One tiny hand reached up and touched Damien's chin. Damien laughed, a wet, broken sound. "Well," he said softly, "hello, little warrior." He looked at Maya. "He needs a name. You didn't tell me what you'd chosen." Maya swallowed. "I hadn't. I was waiting. I thought his father would be there to help choose. But his father isn't here. And you are." Damien's eyes widened slightly. "You want me to name him?" "You said you would," Maya whispered. "On the road. You said you'd name him after yourself if I didn't stop you." Damien looked down at the baby. The baby looked back at him. Something passed between them, a silent conversation that Maya couldn't hear but could feel. "He came out fighting," Damien said quietly. "No one there, no one to help his mother, and still he came, still he fought." He looked up at Maya. "Do you know the name Eshe? It means gift in some languages. Not the language of this place, but a language of hope." "Eshe," Maya repeated. The name felt right on her tongue. Warm, solid, like something that would last. "Eshe," Damien confirmed. He looked down at the baby. "Because no matter how hard this started, you are a gift. And your mother," his voice broke just slightly, "your mother is the strongest person I have ever met." He handed the baby back to Maya, and she held her son, warm, alive, hers, and wept. The aftermath was a blur. The nurses cleaned up. Sister Beatrice checked Maya for tears and bleeding and pronounced her fit. Someone brought tea. Sweet, too hot, perfect. The afternoon sun streamed through the cracked window, painting gold stripes on the floor. Damien stayed. He sat on the blue plastic stool again, watching Maya nurse Eshe for the first time. He didn't stare. He wasn't creepy about it, but he didn't look away either. There was something gentle in his attention, something careful, like he was witnessing something sacred and knew it. "You should go," Maya said eventually. Her voice was hoarse. "You've done more than enough. I don't even know how to thank you." Damien didn't move. "I'll leave when I'm sure you're both okay. You can't stay forever." "No," he agreed, "but I can stay until visiting hours end, and then I can come back tomorrow, if you want." Maya looked at him, really looked, the sharp jaw, the scar above his eyebrow, the hands that had held her through the worst pain of her life, the eyes that had watched her give birth without flinching. "Why?" she asked. "Why would you come back? You don't know me. You don't owe me anything." Damien was quiet for a long moment. The baby made a soft sound against Maya's breast. Somewhere outside, a bird called. "Because," Damien said finally, somewhere between you asking a stranger to be your husband and you nearly breaking every bone in my hand, I realized something. What? He leaned forward, his elbows on his knees, his eyes never leaving hers. I realized that I didn't want to pretend anymore. The room went very still. What do you mean? Maya whispered. Damien opened his mouth to answer, and his phone rang. The sound was jarring, violent, shredding the quiet. Damien glanced at the screen, and his expression changed. The softness vanished. His jaw tightened. His eyes went cold. I have to take this, he said, standing abruptly. I'm sorry. I'll be right back. He stepped out of the room, closing the door behind him. Maya could see him through the window in the door, pacing the corridor, phone pressed to his ear, gesturing sharply. His voice was too low to hear, but his body language was unmistakable. Trouble. She looked down at Eshe, who had fallen asleep with his tiny mouth still open, milk dribbling down his chin. Who are you, Damien? She murmured. The door opened again. Damien stepped back in, his face carefully blank. But his hands, those steady, capable hands, were shaking. I have to go, he said. Something's come up. But I'll be back, I promise. Damien, I'll be back, he repeated. And then he did something that made Maya's breath catch. He leaned down and kissed Eshe's forehead, soft, gentle, like a father. Then he looked at Maya. His eyes were wild with something that looked like panic and determination and hope, all tangled together. My name isn't just Damien, he said quietly. My name is Damien Cross Holden. You can Google me, and when you do, you're going to want to run. But please, please, don't. Not until you hear what I have to say. And then he was gone, the door swinging shut behind him, leaving Maya alone with a sleeping baby and a name she'd never heard before. Damien Cross Holden. She waited until Eshe was settled in the plastic bassinet. Small, so small, swimming in the borrowed hospital blanket, before she asked the night nurse for a phone. What do you need, Mama? I need to Google someone. The nurse handed over her phone with a curious look. Maya typed the name with trembling fingers. The screen loaded, and Maya's world tilted sideways. Damien Cross Holden, net worth $4.7 billion, CEO of Cross Holden Industries, real estate, oil, and technology, named most influential businessman under 40 by Forbes, owner of luxury hotels, private jets, and a portfolio that spans 6 continents. Photos of him at galas, at charity events, on the cover of magazines, and one photo, taken yesterday, of him standing next to his black SUV on a dusty road. The caption read, Billionaire Damien Cross Holden spotted near rural hospital. Sources say he's been missing for 3 days. No comment from his representatives. Maya stared at the screen. Then she stared at Eshe. Then she stared at the empty blue stool where a stranger had sat for 4 hours, holding her hand, making her laugh, naming her son. You're going to want to run, he'd said. She didn't want to run. She wanted to know why a billionaire had been standing on a dusty road. She wanted to know why he'd said yes to a crazy woman in labor. She wanted to know what he'd been about to say before the phone rang. And most of all, she wanted to know if he would actually come back. The night nurse took her phone back. Everything okay, Mama? Maya looked out the window. The mango tree swayed in the dark. Somewhere out there, a black SUV was driving away, carrying a billionaire and 1,000 secrets. I don't know, Maya whispered. I really don't know. End of episode 2. Stay tuned for episode 3, The Return. Will Damien come back? What did the phone call mean? And what happens when a billionaire falls for a woman who has nothing except everything he didn't know he was looking for? Subscribe and hit the bell for episode 3. Like this video if you want Maya and Damien to find their way back to each other. Comment, would you have stayed or run?